Hello viewers, I went on Gran Turismo 7 this week and I found this, the return of the Rallycross mode in the game. This without a doubt brings out the very worst in the Gran Turismo population and a fair amount of carnage. I say fair amount, I mean just all of it. Look at this turn 1 for example, gaining a healthy 5 positions in the space of about 1 second. Let's jump into our first qualifying session for the very first race. And actually no, this is the warm-up. And this was really a sign of things to come, as I had a rather nice skirmish with this Frenchman. The Brits and the French, we've been fighting over the years, and that has not stopped on the Rallycross circuit. You can see there, punting him wide and resuming my place at the front of the pack, quite rightfully so. And then into the final corner, just making an absolute hash of it. Look at that, we've both got penalties in sync as well. So beautiful stuff here at the Rallycross circuit, Catalonia in Spain, and it was a nice little warm up there with the Frenchman. So with that done, we have some nice positive messages in the chat, people wishing me good luck for the race. But firstly I had to worry about qualifying, which of course is always going to be very important in Rallycross. It's always going to be of utmost importance. Now you can see there the guys in the background taking the very well, it's not questionable actually, it's a very interesting run up to the line. If you back up to that barrier, you get slightly more speed over the start line, so you gain a few tenths. So it's not questionable at all, it's just quite funny to see. Now here's my experience. Rather than hitting the apexes, I was hitting the walls, which was not what I was intending. So I had a couple of very bad laps under my belt here in qualifying. You're looking to at least get into the 44s. 43 would be a very good lap, but currently sat on a 46.0, so just quite shocking really. Now coming out of this turn, up the back straight, the car here, the Mitsubishi Lancer, good traction. So actually well suited to this mode, this track. Tight and twisty little chicane here at the end. Gotta get the front of the car in, get it rotated, then drive off the turn in a nice straight manner, keeping the car nicely pinned to the apex on that occasion. And it's a 44.44, hashtag blessed, but it's only good enough for P8 ultimately. So absolutely atrocious first session there, but we move into the race with high hopes of things to come from somewhat the back of the pack, immediately moving up into P7, and this is where things begin to kick off. You can see here 9 players from all around the world trying to harmoniously get through your first corner when there's not much space between them. You're asking quite a lot there, and you can see here it's always very action packed, very close, and almost never clean. Now coming down into this corner here, this is where they actually have the Joker lap in the real life version of this circuit. No Joker lap in the Gran Turismo version of Rallycross. So for those who don't know what the Joker lap is, normally in real Rallycross you have to drive a different version of the track for 1 lap of the race, which is a slightly longer version, but that is not here, so there's no point mentioning it really. Anyway, into here, the pink car gets absolutely shafted and loses a handful of positions. It's a nice little drag race between the pair of us up in towards turn 1. I'm going to try it around the outside, and thankfully I kind of make it work. You can see the couple of cars very close behind. I have a half-second penalty to be served on this lap, and the penalty zone is just around this corner. We need to get some good traction up the hill, build a gap. As you can see, we've done that, and you actually really do not lose a lot of time. I think this penalty zone around this track might be one of the most lenient penalty zones on any track in the game. So eventually caught up with P5. Adriano here, looking for a move. It's not easy to get it right, and you see here, I absolutely do not get it right. Hunting into the back of these couple of guys here, and it's just a very messy affair. So I do apologise for the pure filth you are witnessing. Back into P6, round the first corner, straightening up the car for the jump, turning to the right before you hit the jump, because you want to be turning right as you land, the moment you land. and we nip it up the inside of Adriano and move up into the top 5. So we've made some progress. I mean, it's only 2 positions from where we started. No, sorry, it's 3 positions. 8 minus 3 is 5. So I need to brush up on my maths. But it's really hard to actually do any overtakes in this mode because it's just, I don't know, it's quite relentless, and unless you just punt people wide, there's always that option, isn't there? So that's half the race done, and we've gained 3 positions. We need to try and gain 4 more, but that's quite a tall order. Let's just try and go about getting P4 for now. Over the jump, lap number 5. Got the speed, I felt quite quick. My qualifying obviously was not up to scratch, and therefore I think I was starting slightly further back compared to where my absolute pace should have put me on the grid. But here we go, in towards turn, let me count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is it turn 5? If I've got that correct, I don't know. But you see there, quite a strong, forceful move, and I felt like that's unjustified. I can't be doing that. I'm going to let him go back past. And then here, what's going to happen here? Well, I'm actually going to smash into the wall, which is not an ideal situation to be in, really. So I drop back into 6th position of all places to be, and it's almost like it's rigged. It's almost like I'll do it deliberately, but why would I do that? I want to finish 5th rather than 6th, and remove the curse. I'll cut that corner there, I think, but I was on the receiving end of a small tap from the car behind, getting a half-second penalty, frustratingly, but with a whole lap to try to build a gap so that the guy behind would not be able to get past when I serve the aforementioned penalty. In fact, just looking at the shot here, the guys behind also have penalties, so that kind of helped the situation. So as you can kind of distinguish from this race, Rallycross, as ever, a very, very messy affair, and that is a gross understatement. Crossing the line, as you can see, actually the guy behind didn't serve his penalty, so he's going to carry that to the line. So I should still finish ahead, but I don't really want to let them past anyway. So as we come down towards the final corner of the final lap, I'm going to park it really narrow, and as a result I don't really get the rotation I wanted. And up to the line is actually very, very close between myself and the Dutchman. But ultimately there you can see P6, it just had to happen. First race done, but we're going to move over to the big rivals of the Mitsubishi brand, and that is the Subaru WRX. Interestingly, up against Max Verstappen, and that definitely is him on his Swiss account. I have no doubt about that. But here we go then. Race number 2, starting P4. The guy on the right forgetting to start, which is quite a bad strategy in my opinion. Then you've got the Audi Quattro on the right hand side there. They're going very wide, and I'm already up into a very handy P2. P4 to P2, and 7.5 laps to try to wrestle the lead away from Mike the Player 24. The Austrian being my only obstacle between me and a win, which would be quite a miracle. Let's see if we can do it. And as I said in the first race, overtaking isn't always easy. You know, the car in front can just park it on the apex, and it's really difficult to get a move done in a clean and concise manner. I'm going to try a move here, but as you can see, I really just end up pushing him wide, and that is against my morality, so I decide to back off and let him go back past. So winding around turn 1, straighten up the car, into 3rd gear, up the jump, again turn to the right, so you get a nice swift movement into that right-hander as you land. Some nice handbrake action there. A 0.5 second penalty for the Austrian in the lead. You have to try to overhaul him here. But the main issue I was noticing in this race was that the Mitsubishi Lancer that he's driving had much better traction coming out of the corners, and so I was able to get close going in, but then you can see here the drive that the Mitsubishi Lancer gets off the turn. It actually doesn't get a good drive there. That does not show my point very well at all. I'm going to have to wait for another corner to kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about. But actually the long left here coming up, this is the corner where I noticed they were able to get away. And this is quite a crucial corner as I get a penalty because it leads up to the penalty zone. So look at the gap there, it just opens up by a couple of car lengths. And I'm not quite able to catch up. You see, I do gain as they serve the penalty. And then I serve the penalty 1 lap later on lap 4. So the race hangs in the balance. I would have hoped to have got the position a lot earlier than this as I go into the wall. But thankfully not heavy enough to fully crash. Let's just call that a semi-crash for now. So that's half the race done. Still in P2. This guy isn't making enough of a mistake, and I'm not making enough of an impression. As we head down the hill towards the final corner, lap number 6, we both get a penalty. So beautiful synchronised penalty attainment in this race. And with just over 1 lap to go, you can see it was close. But things were getting quite desperate. With 1 lap to go now, just try to engineer a little bit of an opening here up towards turn 1. I'm on the outside. It's going to be really difficult to pull off a move from here. And that proves to be the case, not being able to do it. But I felt like, you know what, final corner, I don't care how far back I am, I'm going to send it no matter what. Lick the stamp, up the inside we go. For the filthiest move of 2023, and it's only been a week. I had to let him go though, because that was, again, against my moralities and principles as a human being. To do such a cowardly act against your fellow human is just, it just really is, should be frowned upon. We exchanged pleasantries in the chat, but moving on to the final race, 6 o'clock. This is it. This is the final hour, the final race. And I was heading back, I was defecting back to Mitsubishi. Subaru was not to my liking. So this time, right, the qualifying had to go better. So I was going to try this tactic out where you reverse up to this wall and then you launch from here, and you can see you get a bit more of a run up, and therefore you gain, I would say, in the region of 3 or 4 tenths. About that, probably less than half a second. And well, given that it's such a short lap, you know, a couple of tenths is crucial. And unfortunately on this lap, you see there, just cutting the corner and gaining myself the attention of the stewards and a penalty. Did the same thing here, the following lap. And this quite quickly turned into a very cursed session. Setting a 45.6, which was my best clean lap. And here I was up on the purple, right? I was setting purple sectors, then stupidly got a penalty. So I started P8, a disaster, but let's see what we can do from 8th on the grid. Now immediately the guy on the right just doesn't start, someone forgetting to actually go at the beginning. And then you can see it turns into something of a bowling alley as I move up into P3. And it does help when everyone else decides to identify as a bowling pin and then smash themselves wide. As I'm already up into P2 in fact. So that was a rather healthy start. P8 up into P2 in, well, really just 2 corners. And now this is our chance. Surely we're in the correct car. I'm going to smash this guy out of the way. Actually, that's not good enough. I'm going to let him go back. But then, boom, it wasn't long before he actually just did the self-send into the Shadow Realm. And that one I can't be blamed for. I let him go back into position. Then he felt it necessary to send himself into the wall. And I cannot really be blamed for that one. But anyway, up until turn 1, in position number 1, this is my opportunity. From here, it's just a case of bringing it home and not doing anything really stupid, like binning it, getting a penalty, getting smashed wide by someone else. There's a long list of things that could happen that could unravel this race. And as you can see, just slowly but surely the gap, it went up. I got a penalty on one of the laps, but it was okay because I was so far ahead. It just didn't matter, and it just turned into just a beautiful, beautiful race, akin to really watching Senna at Monaco. Watching Super GT at the Barcelona track was just the same thing basically. We witness the checkered flag with the first one to cross the line, and it was a win. Let's take a look at that start again, because this race needs some thorough analysis. And as you can see there, it was really a case of just stick to the inside and wait for other cars to turn into bowling balls and smash each other off. And you mind your own business, and you just let everyone else do the dirty work for you. Now, I came across this guy, the Spaniard. Now, I think it was about this point here where his mood unravelled, because he was doing okay until there, and just watch him become an absolute psycho. And I will offer a £1 million prize to anyone who can count the amount of incidents that he gets involved in, because I believe it ranges in the 8 to 9 figures kind of area. So as we hurtle down the hill, as you can see, he's hitting a car more than he's not in contact with the car, if you know what I mean. He spends more time hitting someone than not. So coming into this one, Ronnie O'Sullivan will be proud of that, smashing the Frenchman straight into the corner pocket. Beautiful stuff. And actually ramming the German wide. As we're heading towards the final corner, German comes back in for a revenge attack. And this was quite a funny moment, because I'm pretty sure he was going to try and ram off the French guy here, but then doesn't realise he's ghosted and goes straight through him and smashes into the wall. But yeah, the hostilities are rather quickly resumed here between the German and the Spaniard, but then the Frenchman comes in, and I'm not sure if France and Spain have had a major war, but they definitely have had now. As you can see here, look at this almighty group of destruction hurtling around this track. I was luckily in the top 3 by this point. In fact, I was in the lead by this point, and just escaping all of this trouble. This is just where you just do not want to be. Gets a 4-second penalty for absolutely murdering someone. Down in towards the final corner. Again, look at that, the double kill. The infamous double kill, and he's pulled it off to perfection, to be fair to him. So quite clearly, a massive lack of morality from the Spaniard. The Frenchman comes back in to launch a massive counter-offensive at turn 1 and gets the job done. But then counter-offensive number 5000 comes in. Spaniards back up into P5, and it was just a really scrappy and messy race. You see here, serves a 4.5 second penalty, which is pretty big for a rallycross race, but then all that does is it puts the German and the British guy here in the firing line of the dangerous Spaniard, and then boom, the Brit has been murdered. How about the German? Well, of course, he's just going to launch him into the wall. You can kind of see that one coming. So after approximately 5 billion deaths that this guy is responsible for, comes around the final corner to actually finish P5. There wasn't much justice done on this day, but there you go. That's Rallycross summed up for you in Gran Turismo. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you all next time. Have an amazing day. Goodbye.